They say that when you dance with the devil changes you. Well, nothing could be more appropriate to describe the film industry. So while I'm sitting here spinning my wheels, trying to figure out how to get my script in front of managers and in front of decision makers, I have to ask myself, why am I doing this? I trusted my dad's judgment. You know, he was actually pretty good at sniffing out bullshit. When I think about being in the film industry, I think about this one time when we invested in a film company. At the end of this history lesson, there's a teachable moment. It's just that this teachable moment lies at the end of a Geek Fest and around a company called Orion Pictures in particular. So if you hang out long enough, I guess you'll be with me when I make my decision. Am I putting on my dancing shoes? The year, 1982. The place, my dad's Mazda RX-7. He was picking me up from a movie called Poltergeist, and we were talking about what his company was doing. And he said that he had the chance to invest in a film company called Orion Pictures. Orion Pictures was going to have an IPO, was going to go public, and he wanted to know what I thought. And I'm stoked. I mean, I'm like 12 years old, and my dad, who I love and respect, is actually asking me for my opinion on whether or not we should invest in something. Well, I didn't have to think twice. I mean, for me, investing in movies, win-win. Let's do it. I mean, as far as I was concerned, investing in movies meant if you make a movie and you get it into enough theaters and you get enough butts in seats, you'll make money, right? I was totally naive. I was a yokel. I mean, I didn't know anything about exhibitor splits, and I didn't know about Hollywood accounting. The thing is, most people who invested in movies, and certainly invested in this IPO, I don't think they really knew about Hollywood accounting either. I guess you could say it was in the fine print, the footnotes, or maybe even the closing credits. See what I did there? Your story is the perfect example about how that desire to make good movies can quickly devolve into that greedy need for, you know, a new chalet in Maui or a comfortable cabana in Aspen. Caddyshack, Arthur, Amadeus, Dances with Wolves, Silence of the Lambs. I mean, they made some pretty impressive movies. To understand Orion Pictures, you have to understand UA, United Artists. Back when you could believe that studios were actually brands and that the content that they made reflected those brands, there was United Artists. Their movies were cool, they were sophisticated, they were groundbreaking, and they were always interesting. I mean, these are the guys who did James Bond. These are the guys who worked with directors like Clint Eastwood and Billy Wilder. And this is where we go all sepia and lens scratches to tell the story. UA was run by a guy named Arthur Krim. And Arthur Krim and his band of carefully selected, creative C-suiters really loved movies. That seemed to be their primary interest. I like to delude myself into thinking that at least back then, there was a love of movie making. UA would give you, if you happen to be Clint Eastwood or Burt Reynolds or Billy Wilder for that matter, a pile of money, and they'd let you go off and make whatever movie you wanted to, and then they would distribute it. Enter TA, Transamerica. You know, they were all about trucking and insurance. And they've got a big pyramid in the middle of San Francisco. And the thing about TA is they wanted to bolster their stock price. And at the time, a great way to do that was to buy a movie studio. So Kinney Corporation, one of these crazy conglomerates that owned, among other things, funeral homes, bought Warner Brothers Studio. Now, their involvement with Warner Brothers was so successful that by 1973, when Warner Brothers released their biggest hit to date, The Exorcist, Warner Brothers had rebranded Kinney Corporation. It was no longer Kinney Corporation, it was Warner Communications. There's Gulf and Western. This was a conglomerate then for oil, gas, grocery stores, you know, things you would naturally think go together. Well, they bought Paramount Pictures. So when Paramount Pictures makes the biggest hit in film history, 1972's The Godfather, Gulf and Western stock did really well. It's only natural that Transamerica is thinking, well, we're gonna get a goose too. Despite having things like the #1 film of the year with Sean Connery's return to James Bond in 1971, it didn't do anything. The stock just laid there. It never moved up. And TA was starting to get annoyed. Transamerica's first solution was to not even so much revamp United Artists branding, but basically take it over completely. So that whenever a film unspooled and you're watching the opening credits, the United Artists logo wasn't just United Artists. It also had this garish, ugly Transamerica logo. As a matter of fact, it was their logo that animated, and it said, "Entertainment, brought to you by Transamerica." So by 1978, TA had pretty much had enough of UA. In 1976, United Artists had Best Picture winner with Rocky. In 1977, they had the return of James Bond with The Spy Who Loved Me that did huge business. And then they won Best Picture again with a movie called Annie Hall. UA was flying very high and doing very well. But the Transamerica stock wasn't nudging. And Transamerica was getting frustrated. And quite honestly, their frustration was driving Arthur Krim and United Artists crazy. I mean, imagine being a filmmaker and all you do is have these bean counters and C-suite level guys who all they know how to do is have meetings and basically criticize. So Arthur Krim has a great idea. He goes to Transamerica and he says, "I propose that we spin off United Artists. You guys hold a minority stake, we hold a majority stake, you'll still make money, we will no longer be a contaminant to your stock." Well, Transamerica said, "Thanks, but no thanks. We own you and we plan to keep you." Well, Arthur Krim said, "I don't like being owned." So Arthur Krim and his friends at United Artists walk across the street to visit Ted Ashley. Ted loves this idea. "I will give you whatever money you want. I will let you make whatever movie you want. I will only distribute and market it, and then therefore take a piece of the revenue." Basically, Warner Brothers was offering United Artists a United Artists type deal. Well, Arthur Krim understood this deal because he'd been orchestrating these for years. So this was a great marriage for a few years, but even in a great marriage, you'll often find that one partner gets a little tired of the status quo.